Welcome back, Stas23 here, back again with some knife therapy, and today I have for you the ESEE Knives IZULA and S35VN steel. This bad boy comes in at $80, and in my case I added some scales to it, but you can get some G10 scales for $20 extra. So we're going to call it a $100 knife, and I'll tell you what later. And let's take a look at the specs. I'll put them up on the screen now. So you can see this is a small, in my opinion, an EDC fixed blade, or you could throw it in a pack or use it in a survival kit or something like that. And this is a totally USA made knife by the Rowan manufacturer in Idaho Falls. And definitely a place I'm probably got to check out next time I go visit my son in Idaho. I didn't even realize they were in Idaho. They have also one of the best warranties in the industry. Their warranty is no questions asked. You break it, they replace it. I've had to use their warranty once before, and they did an excellent job. I didn't break anything, just something that I needed them to fix. They don't ask any questions. They just take care of it. You know, and a lot of times when you get those type of warranties, usually the prices are hiked up, you know, because they're including that warranty in here, but they are just that confident in their knives. Like I said, for me, it was put in the role of an EDC fixed blade because it's super easy just to drop it in the pocket or conceal it horizontally on your belt or even in the inside of the waistband. It comes with this plastic sheath right here that does a fine job. I mean, it does a good enough job if you want. Like, I used it like this in the back pocket, and I also have a little back pocket sheath that I put it into. I just don't love the sheath, so I upgraded to a Kydex, and it's a little bit more streamlined. It's a little bit lighter. And they got a very nice Armitage carry Kydex sheath for $35. So they definitely have upgrades you can do to the knife if you decide to. For me, it was a definite that I put the scales on there for the type of cutting I like to do with my EDC fixed blades. It also comes with this little plate right here that you screw onto here. It comes with all the screws and everything, the hardware. It works well. I went hunting one time with my IZULA 2, and I had this clipped to the belt. Just a spring clip like that. You can put your belt through there, or you clip it to a pocket, however you want. That is one thing I did like about that. Let me put that off to the side. So you don't have to change the sheath, like I said, but for me, it was more comfortable in that. I think it looked nicer with the Kydex. So that's my choice. You don't have to do that. It still functions perfectly fine with the sheath it comes with. So let's take a closer look at this. You have a nice classic drop point blade right here that's going to be good at a lot of different tasks. I do wish it had a little bit less belly, but if you're going to take this as, like, say, a backup carry to a big fixed blade or something like that, say if you're going to take it hunting, you could use that belly to, process game or something like that. So I get it, but it's a small blade. I think it would have been nice with a just a little bit less belly, bring that tip down just a little bit more, almost like a spear point. Would have been really nice. But this, super functional. It's a jack of all trades, master of none, in my opinion. You have a very nice stonewash finish on there. I love that stonewash. It hides wear very nicely. And you have tons of billboarding. You have the big old ant, that's why it's called the IZULA. It's an ant somewhere, maybe Portugal or something like that. There's a manufacturer right here. And on this side, you got even more. I don't know why they put the ant on both sides. I guess I want you to know that it's an ant knife. First production run, S35VN steel, and IZULA on this side. So tons of billboarding. They do offer a sharpening notch right there. And after I did all the testing, I did sharpen it up because, after you see all the testing, you'll see why. You have pretty robust blade stock on this one and a pretty robust tip. You're definitely not going to have to worry about snapping that tip off, because if you do, they will replace it. That is the awesome thing about a no questions asked warranty. It's got a full flat grind on here that comes down. The geometry on this is rather thick. It's another slight complaint on the knife. This thing at the thinnest portions is 28 to 30 thousandths behind the edge, which is pretty darn. That's thicker than a Hinderer, and they have it sharpened from factory. It was 20 degrees per side. I just followed the factory bevel. So that edge apex is going to be very tough, because instead of being very, very thin like this, it's, you know, steeper like this because of the thickness behind that edge and the thickness of that actual apex that's coming out there. So it's going to be a tough edge, no doubt. And I had somebody comment to me like, that was stupid that they use S35VN. It's going to be too chippy and all that. Well, I don't know if it's played yet, but you'll see it's not as chippy as everybody thinks. I know I saw one guy did a video on an ESEE that he broke in half. You know, knives get out, you know, sometimes you might have a bad heat treat on that knife, or that one might have been, you know, Rockwell higher. Speaking of Rockwell, I was doing a little research, and it says they're Rockwell from about 59 to 60, and I believe that. One thing that I can say from my experience for all the cutting I did with this knife, and I did a ton of cutting, is that the heat treat is definitely on point. I've always thought that they did a great job with their heat treating, because this one I used a whole bunch, and this one's in 1095 steel. It held up just fine. The one good thing about the 1095 is that it's super easy to touch up. You can touch it up with just about anything. You don't have to have diamonds or anything like that. It's easy to touch up. So if you're out in the field and you want to touch it up, this is, you know, excellent choice. But as you can see, my coating had started coming off, so I removed the coating. I did a little regrind to mine, and then I did a mirror polish just because I live in the South. And 1095 already rusts pretty easily. That's why they have this heavy duty traction coating on there that I can't stand. And that's a huge plus with the Izula over the Izula 2 in S35VN, because I don't have to worry about it rusting like I would the 1095 one, and I don't have to have that traction coating like this one that does cause some drag in certain cutting applications. You are going to get more strength out of this one, but with such a small fixed blade, I don't know. I just couldn't think of too many things that I would do with my small fixed blade that I would have to be worried about it. All right, we're gonna impact the apex on this aluminum bar stock. This would void your warranty probably, maybe not with the ESEE, but I do it so you don't have to. Do 3 strikes. One, two, three. Let's see. Absolutely no edge deformation that I can feel. Boy, ESEE sure does a good heat treat. Somebody had said that they didn't know why ESEE would do something so stupid by putting S35 on a hard use small fixed blade. Does that look like it's soft or brittle? Some people just say stuff without knowing what they're talking about, but it's okay. Looks like it's fine to me. I did baton with this. I'm not sure if I caught the footage of that, but I batoned some little bitty kindling for a chimenea that we have, and it did just fine. No problems whatsoever. I did impact testing, edge impact testing on the aluminum. That I don't know if that's played yet, but it just as a thought, it didn't even affect the edge whatsoever. You know, ESEE does a very, very good job heat treating their blades. They take pride in what they do, and it shows. It was very nice to sharpen this knife. It deburred very, very easily. And when I say this took, I mean, one of the most sticky edges, I took it to 800 grit and then stropped it on 1 micron, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And I've already used this thing a few times after the testing, and it's still biting into my fingers pretty darn bad. You do have some fine cut jimping that is functional if you like jimping, but the spine's got a nice flat spot, so I didn't feel like I was going to slip off the spine whenever I was holding it in the saber grip or anything. For all you woods people out there that use ferro rods and stuff, I don't think you'd be able to strike a ferro rod on this spine because it's not super sharp. You can do some mild scraping with it, but that's about it. I played around with that in the woods, but it's not sharp enough. I don't think it's sharp enough to scrape a ferro rod. Now, even though this isn't going to be the sliciest knife, in the world, I found that it did just fine with pretty much every EDC task that I did, and all the testing. I didn't really notice too much drag or anything like that cutting. Now, the only time I did somewhat notice that it struggled was whenever I cut the two different thicknesses of the rubber tubing. I noticed that it was binding up a good bit. And, with that thicker edge bevel, that's when you really notice that type of cutting, because it's harder to start that cutting. The edge from ESEE came ridiculously sharp. They do an excellent job with that as well. If you're not one who, likes to sharpen your knife, or you're not that good at sharpening, and you want to be able to just buy it and have that good edge, ESEE does a really good job with that. I've owned several ESEE knives, and every one of them had a very nice and toothy edge on it, and it was super, super sharp. This one was no exception whatsoever. The only other cutting that it struggled with was whenever I was doing like the push cut and then slicing into that corner cardboard. That's some thicker, dense cardboard, and I noticed it struggled through that as well. Pretty much every knife that I've tested that was 20 degrees per side and wider, I've noticed the struggle. It's not that thin laser beam shooting through that, but it got through it and it handled all of it. So it might not be the easiest to do some, but you can get it done. As long as the length of the blade is not going to matter, then you'll better take care of it. It held the edge all the way through all the testing. And like I said, even after the impact testing, it did not phase the edge. It didn't roll it, didn't chip it, nothing. So that was very nice to see, because I didn't know how the edge was going to handle that. Usually the aluminum doesn't do a whole lot. It may put a couple of dull spots, but in this case it did not. I like the larger finger guard they have right there. I feel really locked in, and they did a good job of knocking the edges off of all the corners on the handle, and on the tip right here, everything's nice and rounded over, so you're not going to have any sharp hot spots points whenever you're squeezing down on the knife. The ergos with the aftermarket scales were great. It was comfortable hammer grip, saber grip. I even did some of the reverse pull grip. That's comfortable. Now, I will say, if you have a large to extra large hand, this thing is going to probably be a little too small for you. I get a perfect 4-finger grip, kind of crammed up on the knife. If I loosen up on it, then I get a 3.5-finger grip. That's why I really, really hope that they make the IZULA 2 in the S35, because with the IZULA 2, you get a 1/2 inch longer of a handle, and the IZULA 2 handle for my medium-sized hands is absolutely perfect. I still have some left over. But, being the size knife it is, you kind of know that getting into it. So, all right, we're going to get a weight on this, and that's with aftermarket scales and just the what you call it right here, 3.5 ounces. To me, that's perfect. And if you wanted to take the scales off and use just sheath, you could wear it as a neck knife if you want. It's a little big for what I like to carry as a neck knife. If I do carry a neck knife, I found it just worked perfect in the back pocket, front pocket, inside the waistband, like I said, or if you want to conceal it, you could do it in the front horizontally on your belt or in the back scalp carry, and you'll hardly notice it's there. Quick size comparisons, you have it by the ESEE IZULA 2 and the White River Knives backpacker. So it's half-inch shorter than the IZULA 2, and it's a good bit shorter than the backpacker. Both of these USA made knives. Bradford Guardian 3 and the Tops 3-pointer. The Tops 3-pointer, you're going to get a lot more handle room. You can get a more full grip, but you have a little bit more blade length with 3-pointer, and you have a lot more blade length with the Bradford Guardian 3. About the same handle feel, because you can see your forward areas right there about the same. But I will say the thicker scales that the Guardians come with are more hand feeling to me. Nitpicks and complaints. I didn't have a whole lot. I thought it was a really good knife. Like I said, the two things that I did mention, the behind the edge thickness. For such a small knife, I prefer, a slicier knife. But I get it. With the type of warranty they have, they want to try to minimize, the amount of returns for edge damage and stuff like that. So, the way they do it, they're making tough knives, so thicken it up and put a steeper bevel on it. So I get it. So it's just, for me in my EDC task, it's just not as enjoyable as some of them, but I still like it. Also, I wish they would make the scaled versions like they do with the IZULA 2 right now. I'm pretty certain that you can only get it in a skeletonized format. Then you got to buy aftermarket scales. I guess the one good thing about that is you can I bought micarta scales, even though these are kind of funky micarta, but I like the grip to them. You can get G10, you can buy whatever ones you find. So I guess it's not that big of a deal, but just a gripe, nitpick. Also, maybe I wish they would maybe have extended that sharpening notch just a little bit more, because as you can see, I was starting to go into the plunge from the one that came from factory. Not the big end of the world, something I can fix, so it's not really an issue for me. But overall value, no doubt, in my opinion, this is probably one of the best values for a USA made fixed blade in this size range. I did some research, and there wasn't a whole lot. They have in their line, they have the ESEE Zancudo in S35VN that comes with the G10 scales, but it's a little bit longer at 7.1 inches over this 6.25. And, it's a trade-off no matter what you do. Also, you look at one of my favorite EDC fixed blades is this White River backpacker that I just put the scales on. This one is a little bit longer, but it's super slicey. That's one thing I love about this one is it's super slicey. And now that I put these scales on here, super comfortable in hand. This one probably makes it into the pocket more than any of them, just to be transparent there. But that said, this one in the skeletonized format is $95, and with the G10 version like this one, it would be $150, so a good bit more. So it's definitely one that I highly recommend if you don't mind, the thicker cutting geometry. The price is right, and if you don't want to do all the upgrades, you can do a paracord wrap. It may work out good for you, but just my hands, it just wasn't comfortable enough that I could use it on a day-to-day basis. So I decided to buy the aftermarket scales. I think I paid like $20 for these as well. G10, $20 as well. So it's not a requirement. You can definitely use it. It's not going to be as comfortable with skeletonized handles. And I didn't find it as comfortable with the paracord wrap either. So however you choose to do it, even with, adding the G10 scales, $100 is still a better value than a lot of the other ones in this size range. So You know, I don't know. You got to decide what you're looking for. That's what I always say. You know, when somebody asks me, hey, what type of fixed blade do you recommend at this? I'm like, okay, what are you using it for? Are you hunting with it? Are you a hard user? Do you know how to sharpen? Do you need a stainless? You know, all those things matter if you're trying to find a specific knife. That's something that if you're going to email me, I don't mind answering you, and I'll try to. If you don't give me these, you know, things, I'll come up with best I can do. But I get people email me all the time, ask me what knife do I recommend here, and just tell me what you're using it for. Like I said, sharpen experience, stainless, non-stainless, size, thickness, all that makes everybody's job a lot easier to find you the best fit for you. And ESEE Izula, excellent bang for the buck. ESEE is an exceptional company. They make some very high quality knives, and definitely one that I enjoyed reviewing. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.